First off, it's the second most ridiculous thing he said this week. The first was standing on campus and saying he wanted to put a statue up of somebody that doesn't represent the people of Louisiana, doesn't represent the players and the students at LSU.
Who is he?
He's an asshole, sir.
I know that. What's his name?
That is his name, sir. Asshole. Major asshole.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Dronetek here. Got a clip for you today from ESPN, which is not something I usually dabble in because I'm not really into sports, and I just cannot stand listening to the usually misinformed, usually left-wing political opinions of professional athletes. One of the people that usually gets under my skin is Stephen A. Smith. He's very political, typically a left-wing Democrat type guy. But today, you could tell that he was completely unamused and completely disagreed with everything that was coming out of this guy, Ryan Clark, who was complaining about Governor Jeff Landry, who called on LSU to erect a statue of Charlie Kirk, which honestly makes sense, and I'm going to go into all that, but let's check out the clip and then I'll give you my thoughts.
The second most ridiculous thing he said this week. The first was standing on campus and saying he wanted to put a statue up of somebody that doesn't represent the people of Louisiana, doesn't represent the players and the students at LSU, doesn't represent the executives that work there. That was the first dumb thing he said this week. This is the second dumbest, right? Amongst a lot of dumb things that he says. Scott Woodard, for whatever he is a man who got Jay Johnson, right? Last I checked, the 2025 Louisiana State University Tiger baseball team was in the White House getting the GAT recently, right? He was there in 2019 when it's one of the greatest college football teams of all time. He also was there when he said, you know what, we're going to go out and get Kim Mulkey, right? She brings a championship to the school with Angel Reese and with Flau'jae Johnson. And so to me, this is another situation of politicians poking their nose into things that they don't know about. And I honestly believe it was so he can get in front of a microphone and say, look at this connection I have to the president, and he likes to pick winners so he could placate to somebody he idolizes. You don't know nothing about football. There's enough going on in the state of Louisiana that needs to be fixed for its constituents. Well, I don't need you tweeting on Saturday night about what's going on in Tiger Stadium. There is too many issues happening right there under your nose that ain't got nothing to do with sports. Scott Woodard is a good man. Scott Woodard is a man that cares about LSU. In the greatest times, back in the day, he understood what it was like to be a part of a winner, and he's brought more winners back to the school. He didn't miss because Brian Kelly wasn't capable. He missed because Brian Kelly was no longer willing. Brian Kelly was no longer tapped in. Brian Kelly didn't care if the people of Louisiana cared about him, and he didn't care if the players knew that he cared about them. That's where it went wrong. Not in picking a man who was the winningest all-time coach in Notre Dame history. And so for me, it's emotional, clearly, and it pisses me off, but Scott Woodard deserves to pick the next head coach, and the governor should stay out of it.
Okay, a few things. First of all, the guy said that there should be a statue of Charlie Kirk at LSU. I don't really understand what that has to do with football exactly. Charlie Kirk was one of the most prominent conservative speakers on university campuses across this country. He was known across the country for speaking to people on the other side of the aisle to keep dialogue going in order to prevent exactly what happened to him. That's just it. Charlie Kirk was assassinated on a university campus for his speech. And guys like this, why did he feel like he had to say something about that? Because guys like this do not like Charlie Kirk because they've been told by other people that he was a racist and a bad guy. And he kind of, in his head, this Ryan Clark, who is a football player, as far as I know, I don't really know anything about him, but he made a comment there about, you know, this person shouldn't be speaking about things he doesn't know about. Why is he talking about Charlie Kirk then?
It's different.
It reminds me of that sportscaster that did something very similar where he was whining about one of the players going to Charlie Kirk's funeral, and he prefaced the whole thing by saying, well, this isn't political, but...
Boy, here we go.
I don't want to talk about any of the politics of it, but the thought of leaving your team in the middle of a race for any reason other than a family emergency really strikes me as weird.
I mean, can you even imagine if some pillar of the left's debate community or, just somebody that promotes Democrats out there was assassinated in front of everybody for their views. That's it. Just to shut them up, to silence their speech. Not only would there be statues, but this person would be an American hero. The Democrats would, there would be a day commemorating it, and there would be statues, and they would endlessly talk about it. They would use it to say that the other side's violent and to curtail their speech. It would be way, way worse. Instead, you get these guys complaining. Like, why? I don't even understand why he would complain about that right now. What's the point? He claims that it doesn't represent the people of Louisiana or the university. How does he even know that? As far as I know, isn't Louisiana like 60% Republican?
I ask that you join us in a moment of reflection following the murders of Charlie Kirk in Orem, Utah, Arenas Arutska in Charlotte, North Carolina, and High School shooting in Alabama. LSU condemns all violence in our community.
First off, it's the second most ridiculous thing he said this week. The first was standing on campus and saying he wanted to put a statue up of somebody that doesn't represent the people of Louisiana, doesn't represent the players and the students at LSU.
I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
And at most of these universities, the conservatives are treated as a minority, even though they might be a silent majority. They're afraid to speak. That's one of the big reasons that Charlie Kirk was such a big figure on the right, because he was showing conservatives that they could be themselves and talk about the things they believe in on campus. They didn't have to be scared, because exactly this kind of thing happens on campuses. The left is violent. You can see any conservative speakers or organizers who go onto campuses usually have to deal with some unhinged leftist. It doesn't go both ways. That's a totally one-way thing. Yes, I do believe it makes sense to have statues of Charlie Kirk at a university. And this guy is such an idiot that even Stephen Clark is sitting there looking at him like, you're such a moron. Some rando football player. Why is he commenting on a statue of Charlie Kirk being put up and claiming that it doesn't represent anybody of Louisiana or the school? He has no idea. He's just saying that because in his bubble, everybody hates Charlie Kirk. All right, folks, that's all I have for that. Let me know what you all think in the comments, and if you're still here, might as well like and subscribe.